Where'd you go camping?
Illini State Park in lovely Marseille, Illinois. Or as they call it there, Marseilles, I believe.
Is that close to Urbana-Champaign?
It is close to Ottawa. If you've ever been camping down there, it's close to Starved Rock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Starved Rock is a classic.
Yes. Great hike. Lovely town for the campgrounds to be in. The campgrounds were just kind of, okay, they're more like RV camping grounds, I would say. Mm-hmm. But if you want to go camping in a place that's kind of close to a city that has stuff going on, I think that could be a good choice. But we had a lovely hike at Starved Rock the next day. Went down to the bottom of Wildcat Canyon, took the dog, had to stop every 10 feet for the dog to greet somebody and for someone to go, "Your dog is so cute." What's going on with you guys? What do you want to talk about this episode? Did you go camping? Do you want to talk about camping?
I didn't go camping.
No, I don't like camping. I'm a city boy.
Oh, wow.
At best, I'll go to the suburbs. I'll go for a hike in the woods, but sleeping anywhere other than a mattress, thanks, but no thanks.
The most amount of camping I've ever done is in the back of a Call of Duty map. That's it.
That's funny. I like it. You know, I was a Boy Scout growing up.
You're allowed to like it.
And it's like my wife's favorite thing. So we went for Mother's Day. And, you know, it was good. We had s'mores. We made a little shrimp boil on Friday night over the fire. It was good.
And the boys enjoyed it?
They love it. Yeah, they do.
I guess the listeners are probably wondering, why is this episode a day late?
Yes.
And the answer to that is, just like Arena's arrival to Pioneer, we took our time creating this episode.
Right.
It's metatextual.
It is metatextual. So much so that we don't really have a cold open here, do we? Or is this the cold open? Are we post cold open? Are we pre-open? Has the music rolled?
I think
is
we're doing it all
right now.
Oops, all cold opens is the episode?
Yes, exactly.
Hello and welcome to episode 321 of The Dive Down, a Magic the Gathering podcast focused on the latest decks, trends, strategies, and arena formats for the casual spike. My name is Stanislav here in Chicago, and with me on the line from beautiful Massachusetts, it's the one and only Devon O'Donnell, aka Doomwake.
That's me. Soon to be in Hartford in a couple of days.
Ooh.
RC2.
RC2. I usually only do
Electric
one.
Boogaloo.
But because this one is so close, I figured, you know, there's really not much travel. It's like, I think the site's like an hour away from where I live, so.
Gosh.
Are you going to stay there, or are you just going to drive and drive back?
No, I'm just going to drive and drive back. It's not that bad.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
Are you running back the same deck?
Yeah. Probably going to change the list up a little bit, but yeah, I'm going to play Prowess.
Are you excited?
I'm excited to play a big tournament. Maybe not necessarily excited about the format, but
so much so that we are going to probably talk about other formats today.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah. I'll just say how the mighty have fallen. It's been months of people singing Standard's praises.
I mean,
yourself included.
I loved it until Corey Stillcutter came out.
Oh.
But
we love Corey Stillcutter on this show.
You play Corey Stillcutter.
Yeah, maybe we'll save that for a different episode.
Okay.
Let's save it for the Hartford reaction episode.
Yeah.
Why we play the cards we hate.
True.
Ooh, we need to have one about that. Cards that we hate but play anyway.
Basic Plains.
Basic Plains. I do hate Basic Plains. I don't want a Basic Plains in my deck.
Dave, are you getting a work call?
No.
Also with us is the Godfather, Dave Harbarger.
It's me and my notifications here to screw things up again.
Dave, before I started just randomly, unsolicitedly calling you the Godfather 6 years ago on the Dive Down, has anyone else referred to you as such?
No, never. Why?
But it's stuck, hasn't it?
It's stuck in this community.
And you've never complained or bat an eye. You took it in naturally.
Well, when we started, I was the only father on the podcast. And I think that's where it came from. It was mostly from you. I think you ribbing me that I had children. And now you have as many children.
Now the shoe's on the other foot.
Yeah.
There was no ribbing. I always just sort of saw you as my magic dad. A, because you're old enough to be my dad. Mm-hmm. You conceived me when you were 10.
I mean, to be honest, I had a beard when I was 10, so likely possible.
Yeah, I probably had an awkward mustache.
Uh-huh. Who among us did not have an awkward mustache at 10? Devon, you?
I don't remember a lot about
Okay.
childhood, so
Well, on this week's episode, we're now going to relive our awkward youths.
that's the new podcast, actually.
That's
Awkward
right.
youths.
What's in your
Youth.
let's
What's in
Junior
your
high
repressed
school?
memories? Stan,
Shane,
would you like to know?
Dave.
Would you like to know the nicknames people had for me before The Godfather?
Yeah, I would love that, actually.
So
yes.
when I was in high school, people called me the Gnome. David the Gnome. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you were a short king.
Because I was a short king with a beard in high school. Yes.
Was that like around the same time the Travelocity commercials were out with the traveling gnome?
No, we didn't have the internet when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not quite. Not quite. We definitely didn't have e-commerce. True.
Dave ordered all of his clothes from a catalog.
Oh, Delia's. Yeah, for sure. Actually, I don't
No,
I don't know.
Delia's
Did
wasn't
Delia's
that
have
women's
boys
only?
stuff too?
Yeah.
Or no, I don't know. And then in college, people just called me Beard Dave.
Because there were 30 Daves.
Yes, but I was the one with a beard.
Yeah.
Yep. And really unfortunate sideburns at other points in time. As you can
Yeah.
imagine, it was 1999, let's say.
Should have called you Dave Burns.
Yeah, they call them ska sideburns, I think, these days.
I still love to wonder what would happen if we met in 1999 when I was in 5th grade.
When you were 10 and I was 20,
Yeah. What would that be? What would we talk about? Gundam Wing?
Probably Magic the Gathering.
Possibly. I
Yeah.
think, no, that was before I got into Magic.
Okay.
I got into Magic in junior high school.
Yeah. Yeah. Not much. I would have been like, hey, kid, stop stealing that Game Boy.
And I'd say, how did you know? You saw? You saw what I put in my pants?
Oh, jeez. Okay. What are we actually talking about on this show?
We're going to dust off our old arena accounts. Well, some of us are. Devon's been keeping his up to date, but Dave and I have had to do a 20 gigabyte download of card files to celebrate the long awaited arrival of Pioneer, finally, officially.
I've been working my way out of Bronze 4, my friends.
There you go.
Because I haven't played Constructed on Arena since you could play Auras in Historic. That's how long ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's right. So we'll talk about Pioneer and Arena. It's official. This will be, I guess, a little bit of a crash course and a reminder to ourselves and our listeners. What's Pioneer actually about right now?
Just even generally speaking, what's Pioneer? We when Pioneer came out, decided we were going to cover Pioneer, right? We've gone back and forth on it lots of times over the years. We spent some time on it last year because it was an RC format. Devon was pretty into Pioneer. We've played it. This year, not supported by Wizards of the Coast, except on their premium digital products. It is now a format that you can play. And let me tell you, it's got its own flavor, friends.
Yum.
It kind of has its own flavor. Tastes like campfire cooking. You know what I'm saying?
S'mores.
Not the good kind.
I believe we call that umami.
Yeah.
Also, Devon's going to reveal to us his solutions in Modern. You solved Modern Affinity?
Allegedly.
You figured out how to cast Caprican in here?
We'll get into that when we get into that.
Yeah.
And then if time allows, we can look at some Final Fantasy cards.
Yep. But first, some housekeeping.
If you'd like to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/thedivedown. You can support us through our store at thedivedown.com/store. We also have some wonderful sponsors, including Heavy Play, who will give you 10% off your first order at heavyplay.com with promo code thedivedown2025. Get your playmats, get your deck boxes, get a whole host of sweet accessories featuring magnets. Love them magnets at Heavy Play. Also, Mana Traders will give you 25% cash back after 3 months of using their rental service if you use promo code TheDiveDown, all one word. And that's all it takes.
Great.
And to give us your money.
Okay.
One last tiny bit of housekeeping / promotion for one of our patrons who's organizing a large Pauper tournament in the Midwest. If you are in Illinois or Northern Illinois or Wisconsin, Pauperoncini, the Magic tournament.
Great name.
That's good.
It's happening in Clinton, Wisconsin on June 14th, firing at 10 a.m. It has a payout for the top 8. First place gets a playset of altered sneaky snackers. They'll be raffling off boxes and packs, playsets of popper cards. Costs $35 to get in. We'll promote it in the show notes as well. If you want to learn more about it, there is a Spice Rack link, or just search up Popperoncini in Spice Rack, June 14th in Wisconsin, Clinton, Wisconsin.
Cool.
One of our patrons is doing it. Yeah. Alec is helping to put it together. So I wanted to give back to the Dive Down Nation.
Yeah.
And that's what you get when you join the Discord. You can DM me and be like, hey, Stan, I'm trying to put together a large tournament in the region that you live in. Can you promote it on your hit Magic the Gathering podcast? And I'll say, sure, I'll do it eventually. And finally, several weeks later, I remembered, and here we are.
Well, it's still a month before the tournament, so.
No, I think so, too.
We've got time.
Why are you mad? No one's mad.
No one's mad. No one's mad, Stan.
No one's mad. We're doing great.
You know who's mad? The arena team, because the mad lads and ladies and everyone finally did it.
Wow. It only took 3 years, 3 Explorer anthologies, 7 historic anthologies, a draftable Pioneers Master format set, and then finally a small batch of new cards to coincide with this announcement.
Look, I don't want to be that guy, but actually there's still like 2,000 cards missing.
Well, yes.
So, but you know, they officially called it Pioneer. And to be honest with you, the cards that are missing are, you know, like you wouldn't even put them in your draft deck. So
they're worthless.
Yeah.
Although we said that about Kazul's Toe Collector, and you know,
and that's doing some stuff now.
Yeah.
I've never even seen that card.
It's in the Hammer decks, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Which I played. Well, maybe we'll talk about that.
So let's talk about Pioneer for a second. We talked about it a little bit off the top.
Sure.
Pioneer's been around for what now? How long? I mean, we're talking early 2020 is when Pioneer, or end of 2019. I should double check because we've talked about the history before.
It's that era, end of 2019 or very early 2020. In fact, I know in early 2020, I was playing Pioneer. I remember it in Amsterdam. So it would have come in, I think, autumn of 2019. Because they announced it when we were at a sunny tournament in Glenview.
You and me, 5.5 years.
We were inside of a indoor soccer field.
Yeah. You remember that?
October 21st, 2019. Yes, we played a really bad deck at that tournament. We played Brineborn Cutthroat Kiki Jiki, no?
Oh, I did play Kiki Jiki, yeah.
I did too, and it was terrible.
Yeah, we didn't do well.
Did not.
You know who was legal in that tournament?
What?
Oko?
Our Oko was legal in that tournament.
And I had Okos, and I was like, no, I'm going to play Brineborn Cutthroat.
Yeah. I'm going to play Honest Magic.
Yeah.
I don't want to play a third color or whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so Pioneer, it goes back to Return to Ravnica, just so people know.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the start. That coincides a little bit with Magic 2014 is the core set that was at that time. Fetch lands are banned, yada, yada, yada. There's a number of things that are banned. It's a well-established format. Like I said, we've played with it. We've tried it lots of different times. There's a list of cards that they're adding to Arena to be able to do it.
Over the years, we've loved and hated it.
Yeah.
And I would even say that up until their decision to not support it as the RCQ format of 2025, it had been fine to good.
Yeah.
After MC Chicago 2014, February 2014, Vampires and Rakdos emerged. There was evolution and people were engaged. People wanted bans. And I think that can sometimes be the signpost of player base that is committed to this thing. Like if they feel strongly enough to want bans, that means they're playing, even if the format may or may not have problems at any given time. There was a lot of decks. Things came and went, and it was good times. And I think to a lot of people, it's actually quite surprising when they decided not to support it in 2025, considering that, like everything else, the universe is beyond cards, and all the 6 standard legal sets that are arriving in 2025 are Pioneer legal as well.
Yeah.
I think part of that was, so when they first started doing the regional championship, different formats for the RCs, they kind of overcompensated a little bit and had too much Pioneer, at least in the first couple of years. I think like if you recall, I think the first like 2 years of RCs, they had like 2 Pioneer and 1 Modern, and they really did. I don't remember if they did a single standard season, at least for like the first year. And then they announced once they started getting standard back into the mix, they wanted to kind of have a little bit more Pioneer or a little bit less rotation. So they're kind of like sort of correcting that, I guess, quote unquote, mistake that they made the previous couple of years. So I think that's in turn why Pioneer got thrown by the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah. But what do we think about Pioneer? What do we think about Pioneer coming to Arena, in quotes? What do we think it means? What do we think about it means for the format, given the world that we're in right now?
I think it's a new day for the format. And I think it's a safe bet that 2026 might be an exciting year for it again. Specifically because Pioneer is the most engaged Magic the Gathering platform other than a Commander Group's kitchen table. I think we're going to see a lot of people at all levels of casual competitiveness engaging with the format.
Yeah, you said Pioneer is the most engaged format. You meant to say Arena.
I
right?
did. Thank you. Thank you for the correction.
I agree with what you're saying. So go on, keep talking.
Yeah, I think with more engagement thanks to Arena, there may be more impetus then to support it as a paper format because Wizards of the Coast, I assume, wants to convert people from digital to paper and vice versa. They want people engaging with the formats in both capacities so that if it does get some headwind or tailwind, if it gets some headway on Arena, I can see that leading to both innovation, increased excitement, and hopefully future support down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of agree. And I think it's interesting that it's the only non-rotating format on that platform that has a corollary in paper, right? Because Timeless doesn't really. Nobody plays Timeless in paper. You could play Timeless in paper. Am I right? That doesn't have corrected or digital only cards. Historic has weird stuff in it as well. And then there's Alchemy, which nobody's ever going to play other than on Arena. So I think those formats are only ever really going to be played on Arena. But Pioneer and Standard, having a non-rotating, you might convert some people who don't have time to keep up with Standard. I mean, this is generally like, I am this player who I feel like I don't have time to keep up with Standard. I like to draft, but I prefer the non-rotating mid-tier formats because the decks stay around for 3, 6, 9 months. So you can think about them in that kind of window. So I do think it's possible. I think we should talk about what it's like to actually play Constructed on Arena in a little bit. But I do think that it's a new day for Pioneer. Devon, what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, you might even get a lot of people that have been maybe they've never even heard of Pioneer the format. They've been Arena only players that have only been playing Explorer, and they are like, okay, well, Pioneer is the paper equivalent of this, but they've never experienced the paper Pioneer, and now this name change I think might get those people more in the door towards paper. So I think in turn, what it does for long term is it maybe certainly gets more eyes in the format. And like you guys mentioned, more people brewing. And it's a lot easier to switch cards and collection on Arena. Well, I guess maybe that's not necessarily true depending on what you have. But
yeah.
I guess that was a bad point. But I think TLDR, it's going to increase the, more people are going to try and innovate. I agree with those points.
Yeah.
I think it's ultimately an increase in accessibility to a format. You can play best of one on your phone wherever you want. You can play more engaged on a desktop. Heck, you can play on a Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll even see more people streaming it because I think, generally speaking, Arena streamers do better on Twitch than Moto streamers, unless you're the Doomwakes and the Aspiring Spikes and the Manguchis of the world.
Dude, I've been playing Arena for the past 5 months, so...
Yeah, mostly Standard, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we want to start? So there's lots of things we could talk about here. We could talk about the economy of Arena for people who haven't tried it before. We could talk about the decks that are in Pioneer for people who haven't tried Pioneer lately, because they're pretty different from a year ago, I'll say, or at least somewhat different from a year ago. We could talk about just the experience of playing Constructed Magic on Arena, like what that's like. What do you guys think is the most interesting place to start? Or we can talk about decks we've played.
Yeah, let's start there. Let's start briefly with the decks you've played. Then we'll transition to some of the other top decks or things to know about the format, either best cards or common strategies and classic control, mid-range combo, aggro archetypes.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can talk briefly about the economy, because I think there's an interesting spectrum of what are the quote unquote budget arena decks versus which are the decks that cost I don't know how to invest in the deck on arena.
Mortgage.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll go first, because when we started talking about that, when this announcement came out and we started talking about us covering it quickly to just like let people have an entry into Pioneer, I went to look at my collection. And I've talked recently a lot that I've been playing on Arena a lot for the last 6 months, but I've only been playing Draft and Sealed. So I've only been playing Limited. So the nice thing about that, and we can talk about this as far as the economy goes, is that I've built up a collection of recent cards, but also built up a lot of wild cards.
Yeah, Corey Steel Cutters.
I've drafted a couple of Corey Steel Cutters for sure, but I also had, I think, 100 rare wild cards and 100 mythic wild cards.
Wow.
And I think when I started drafting
money bags over here.
Well, I started drafting 6 or 7 months ago, and I think I had 20 of each of those things when I started drafting, or less maybe, because I had kind of tapped out my account the last time we played around with Arena. And so I did want to say, if you want to, one way to get into Arena is to draft and then turn those cards into constructed decks.
Yeah, that's part of the Arena economy as well, is engaging with Arena on different terms, and you build up that collection and the resources to invest in other formats as well.
Yeah. So we can talk about that later. But so I was looking around at the list. I was like, what's good in Pioneer right now? We kind of knew that mono red aggro has become kind of like the scary deck in Arena. I was like, I don't know if I really want to play all that right now. What do I have that I think is close? So, of course, I fired up old reliable Is It Phoenix, which apparently is towards the top of the metagame still in Pio. Like, people think it's in the top 3 best decks. I think when I looked on Goldfish, it was the second most represented deck in the metagame at this time, and I only needed to use 9 wild cards to go from the timeless Phoenix deck that I had made and probably some weird historic Phoenix deck that I had tried back in the day to a new version. And 4 of the cards I had to get were Artist Talent, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but I basically played this Daniel Akos list from a Pioneer Challenge on Moto. It's that Stan has in the show notes. That'll be in the show notes. You know, Is It Phoenix, guys? It's still good.
The Daniel Akos list had cutters in the board, right? Not the main? Okay.
Yes. I will say, I played maybe 15 matches total on Arena just to get a sense of what was going on, playing with Is It Phoenix again. I didn't sideboard Corey Steel Cutter in any match, so I needed to do a little bit of reading about what the sideboard plans are here, because a lot of games I was just like, I don't know why I want this. I don't know which situation I want this tool to be in, but we all know that Corey Steel is like a messed up card and probably certainly can work in this deck.
Dave, it's for the grindy matchups.
For the grind, yeah, I mean that makes sense. Or the ones where they bring in graveyard, where they bring in the graveyard hate against you, which actually didn't happen too much for me. Anyway, the only thing I want to talk about when it comes to Is It Phoenix right now
is Artist Talent.
Yes, is Artist Talent. So yes. Picklock Prankster's been around for a while. I haven't played Phoenix too much since Picklock Prankster was in the deck. That card is clearly very good. I think a lot of people know that card's good. It helps you, dig through your deck. It helps you get Phoenixes in the yard, and it helps fuel Treasure Cruise, which is the best card in the deck. Of course, still, it's Treasure Cruise deck. Artist Talent, though. The difference between games where you have Artist Talent and you don't have Artist Talent with this deck are absurd.
Can confirm. That card's a lot.
It's a lot. And I never put mana into advancing to the other levels. All I did was use it to discard and loot and all that kind of stuff.
Artist Talent.
Yes.
Enchantment from Bloomborough. Rare.
Yeah.
Rare.
Yeah.
It's like $1,000 in arena terms. 1 in a red. For when you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. It has levels 2 and 3, but David, you're saying they're irrelevant.
I never use them, and I suspect most people don't.
Maybe like once in 100 games or something. It's extremely rare.
You just have literally nothing else to do with your mana. You're like, I better pump up Artist Talent. Here's what this card does. It lets you cast Opt and then discard another card to draw 2 cards with an opt. And the card that you discard could be a Phoenix. It could be something that's Treasure Cruise fuel, as I said before, or sometimes it's just an extra land that you don't need. You don't really know what you're going to do with it, but you know you don't need more lands. It's wild how many triggers you can get off of this card in a turn with Is It Phoenix decks.
Yeah, it's just like makes it so you never run out of gas. You always have spells every single turn. Like it just, it's so good.
Yeah. All that being said, I didn't do great with this deck right now. Like, you know, I played in the challenge. I think I played in one of the on-demand events, and I played ladder just to like see what was going on. And, you know, I'm still in like bronze 1 or something like that because I didn't play that many ladder games. So I think I was kind of like just going and seeing what was going on. But, you know, Phoenix is great. I still love the deck, and it was a good deck to play while I was trying to see what was going on in Pioneer.
Devon, what have you liked in Pioneer lately?
So there was, to celebrate the release of Explorer becoming Pioneer and these cards, they released a couple of cards, and they had this kind of special tournament. It was called the Metagame. I don't know, it was Metagame Challenge. It was some Pioneer tournament this weekend. I don't remember what it was called. But one of the cards that was released that I have been really wanting to be on the client for a long time was Sanctum of Ugin. And you might ask yourself, well, what does that do? You know, we don't have Eldrazi Temple or Ugin's Labyrinth. Sanctum of Ugin is a card that pairs well with Metalwork Colossus.
Oh boy.
So Metalwork Colossus, for those at home who don't know, is an 11 mana 10/10, but it costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of non-creature artifacts you control, and then you can sack 2 artifacts to return it from your graveyard to your hand. So the idea is you pair it with Leyline Axe, which is, you know, the Leyline artifact equipment thing, Brass Knuckles, which is a weird card from Streets of New Capenna. It's a 4 mana equipment that says when you cast it, you copy it, and the copy retains the mana value. So when you cast Brass Knuckles, you now have 8 mana value worth of stuff in the battlefield. You play all these artifacts, reduce your Colossus. You play Colossus ideally for 0, and then however many Sanctums you have in play, you can turn those into more Colossus that ideally are free. So you do that, you pair it with Simulacrum Synthesizer to make a bunch of construct tokens. You have pretty good removal with Portable Hole and Perilous Snare. You have 8 ways to ramp with Moonsnare Prototype and Fabrication Foundry. You have Ingenious Smith to find all your pieces. And I got to 7 wins when one of the I don't remember the name of the tournament, Pioneer Showcase, I think it was.
I think it was the Pioneer Metagame Challenge is what it was
like
called.
That.
Yeah.
But I got the 7 wins on my first try with this deck, and I was really impressed. You know, over the past couple of sets, not really anything from Turkey or Dragonstorm, but Perilous Snare from Aether Drift, Leyline Axe from Foundations, and this deck always has like been sort of on the back burner, like waiting for that next expensive artifact to come in. And I think everything just kind of like came together. And yeah, I was really impressed at how well this deck played. And honestly, I might give it another go. So I like this one a lot.
Is this your brew, or
No.
did you grab it from somewhere?
Copy pasted. I found. Well, I changed one card. I cut. They had a dissection tools that I cut for a second wedding invitation. So I guess because I changed one card, is it my brew now?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's all it takes.
Cool.
You did it.
Steal like an artist.
But no, deck was great. I loved it a lot.
I mean, this deck is the hilarious. This is one of those decks that's like the thing about Pioneer is like you get to play these kind of clunky, weird decks that are not totally optimized sometimes, but they have a good joke in them basically. And the joke in this one is like, we're going to make as many giant metalwork colossuses as we can as fast as possible. And we're just going to make it happen. And you can bring, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of these decks in here in this format where you can kind of like have one little synergy and then the whole deck is built around that. And there aren't enough hyper efficient cards in Pioneer to have it be twisted the way that Modern is, where you expect like, oh, we're going to have all of these like certain cards that are always going to appear as far as removal goes and things like that. You have this more kind of like static-y edges, I think, in Pioneer. Stan is giving me a very skeptical look as I say this. I know you're thinking about Thoughtseize and Fatal Push.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's not more, though. there's kind of just those, you know.
Okay. As long as we're talking about weird combo, I wanted to mention one other one, especially because when I was doing a little bit of research into the format and trying to understand what different decks were about, I was looking up the mono blue Rona combo, and Doomwake was name dropped in the chatter about it.
Was I?
You were.
It's not my deck. That's Traff's deck.
Well, did you stream it or something?
I might have embarrassed myself trying to play it, but I wouldn't necessarily call it streaming it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And while
I was live.
I was live when it happened.
The camera was on, but the camera's always on. Looking at Traff's deck, though, you know what it has 3 copies of in the main? Very important card.
Profs?
Dive Down. It has 3 dive downs.
Right. Yeah. I do
Thanks
remember
for
that
advertising us, Traft.
Yep.
And this is a combo deck that is trying to make infinite giant otters from Valley Floodcaller.
Yeah, that was the thing that I couldn't figure out when I was playing this deck, is like what the actual win condition was. Because I don't believe if you have an empty board, you can't actually like physically kill your opponent. You need at least something to attack with. But between the Thundertrap Trainer, the Floodcaller, the Mutavaults, and the Talents, you have 16 otters. And yeah, you're right. You just pump it infinitely with Floodcaller, Rona, and Helix.
Yeah. And Amber, right? That's what you're returning.
Yes,
You're just
Mox
replaying Amber over and over again. I want to tell you guys about another deck that I played that is actually this deck. Basically, it's the same kill condition, but I think you guys are going to like it better than this list. Sorry, Rona, and sorry, Traft.
Does it have Dive Down?
Yeah, apologize to the card Dive Down.
It does not have Dive Down. Sorry, Dive Down. You weren't in this deck either from what I saw. Jeskai Ascendancy. Tell me how you like these cards. Jeskai Ascendancy, Emery, Corey Steelcutter.
In Pioneer?
Retraction Helix.
Ooh.
And this exact same combo, except the way that you kill someone is with a hasty monk off of Corey Steelcutter that you pump to be a 20/20, which is how I died one time when I tapped out on turn 4 against someone. And I knew they were up to something funny, but I was like, I think I have one more turn. And I had a lightning axe in my hand. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tap out this turn, but I'm going to be ready next turn to break up what they're doing. Then they killed me with Retraction Helix.
I got one more turn. That's what they always say.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why I'm a bad player. But it's interesting that this is an engine that's floating around in this deck and as well in that other one. I guess if the mana can work well enough in Pioneer to be able to cast Jeskai Ascendancy, you can make something like this work. But it has a lot of powerful cards that we're kind of familiar playing against in Modern as well. Finding a way to leverage Emery plus Mox Amber, I think, could be a big thing for the format.
Mm-hmm. I have a very clunky transition.
Let's do it.
Starting with this deck. Follow me on this very clunky transition journey. This mono blue combo, one of the things that also stuck out to me about it is that it is one of the cheapest decks to build from scratch on Arena in Pioneer.
Is it? Okay.
And the way I'm measuring cost of deck building is by the number of rares first and the number of mythics second. Mm-hmm. And mythics come second because generally, if you're playing enough Arena, you have more than enough mythic wild cards, and you're always hurting for more rare wild cards.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Can confirm.
Mono blue can be built with 24 rares and 8 mythics.
Wow.
Here's the transition. The actual, arguably cheapest deck to build is also arguably the best, if not most popular deck in the format.
Yeah.
Takes 21 rares, 4 mythics, give or take, and that's mono red aggro.
And you want to know one thing about this mono red aggro deck? Most of these mythics and rares, if you are a standard player, you probably already have them. Because I think almost like 90% of this deck is legal and standard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is mice, right? We got Heartfire Hero, We have Emberheart Challenger, Manifold Mouse, Bone Crusher Giant, Screaming Nemesis, Sunspine Lynx. Those are the creatures. You got some burn damage with Burst Lightning and Lightning Strike. You have some Monstrous Rage to, get damage in. And then Kumano faces Kakazan to have an extra 1-drop since you're not playing prowess creatures such as Monastery Swift Spear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really the only rares that you need for this deck that are not legal in standard are Mutavault and Dead of the Bugbear, which
And
those
Bone
are
Crusher
kind of
Giant.
interchangeable. Yeah, Bone Crusher
Yeah.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
But the lands are nice because they're, you can play those in a lot of different decks.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also another version of this deck that I ran into multiple times while I was playing, which is Gruul Aggro, which is your old, the one that we used to see all the time in Modern. I'm totally blanking on the name of the shaman that makes mana again. Burning Tree Emissary. Yeah, it's Burning Tree Emissary, Monastery Swift Spear, Screaming Nemesis was in the list that I saw, I think. And then there's also this plot card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction that pumps one of your guys when you plot it, and then you can cast it for free the next turn. It gives your guy +3/+2 and trample.
Aloe Alchemist.
Yes, that card seems pretty good in this deck as well.
It is.
I don't know if it's in what ways it's less powerful than this mono red deck. Apparently it's less popular and doesn't win as much, but I ran into it several times when I was playing Phoenix, and it seemed explosive.
Tarka's Command. I like casting that card, so.
Yeah, that's a sick card. And that's the other thing that's cool about Pioneer sometimes is just being like, hey, remember when this card was good in Modern for 3 years and now it still could be good in Pioneer again? Like that's part of the appeal of Pioneer, I think, for certain players who have been playing for a certain amount of time, I guess I would say.
I just want to curve Skirmish Rhino into Siege Rhino. I mean, you can do that. I don't know if it's a good idea, but you can do it.
I wouldn't stop you. We could do it.
Turn it into a good idea.
Yeah.
Just put some Thoughtseize in there. Fable the Mirror Breaker is banned in the format, if I remember correctly.
No.
It is not.
It's legal?
It's legal, but honestly, it's like, if you look at these decks, there's not a lot of people playing it right now.
Well, that's funny too. I don't, Devon, one of the first episodes that you were on with me, we talked about a pro tour in Philadelphia, I think, that was Pioneer. And we talked about how Fable was the best card in the format.
I remember listening to this in Manchester.
I remember.
And it was the best card in the format for like a year and a half or so, like right up until the time where they stopped supporting the format. It really felt like Fable was it. And then when Pioneer went underground, kind of, now it's gone.
I guess, like, did the grinders just stop playing, and now they're just like, well, let's do something else. And then if and when they bring it back, then people are like, oh yeah, you remember that Fable the Mirror Breaker card? Let's start playing that again.
Yeah.
I think the problem was that Fable was never the payoff. It was just a really great mid-range tool to get you into the late game, and they banned all the payoffs. Like they banned the vampire cards.
Yeah, they banned Sorin.
And Sorin. Yeah.
I mean, even after the bans, like Fable was still seeing a good amount of play in like the Demons deck and stuff. Like after Annex came out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what else is in the format? Or what else have you been playing, Devon?
So I've got to play one other. We can talk about this real quick. I got to play another one of those Pioneer Showcase events, and another one of the cards that recently came onto the client was Kazul's Toll Collector. And I'm gonna name drop somebody. You guys maybe you guys remember this name, Crusherbot BG.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Modern Hammer player.
All-star.
He's been playing a ton of this Hammer deck in Pioneer, so I copied one of his recent lists and ended up getting to 5 wins. Didn't quite get to 7. But Kazul's Toll Collector, I'll read this for the people at home because you've probably never heard of this card before. It's a 3/2 for 2 and a red, and you can pay 0 to attach target equipment you control to it. Activate only anytime you can cast anytime you could cast a sorcery. So you have, the Colossus Hammers to put onto it. One thing that I was really impressed by this deck is this deck really is excellent at utilizing Fervent Champion. So this is the Javier Dominguez Invitational card that when you equip it, the equip abilities you activate that target it costs 3 less, and it's a 1/1 first strike haste for 1. So with like Dragonfire Blade, this is the new equipment from Tarkir Dragonstorm. Normally the equip cost is 4. That cost gets reduced by 1 for each color of the creature it targets, so it goes down to 3, and then 3 minus 3 is 0. So you can equip the blade to the Fervent Champion for free. You can also Leyline Axe, equip cost of 3. So you can have draws that are just turn 0, Leyline Axe, Fervent Champion, equip attack for 4 on turn 1. It's like those draws are pretty sick.
Amazing.
Yeah, you have Kemba, which can auto-equip Colossus Hammer. You have Kellen, the Fey-Blooded, which can find an equipment for 2 mana and is a 3 mana 2/2 double strike. Yeah, this deck was sweet. It's really weird because there's no Sigarda's Aid, which is a card that is legal in the format. But funny enough, when I played this deck, I didn't miss it. So
We don't even want it for some reason. We don't even want it.
Don't even want it. So Crusherbot, shout out to them for this list. It was a sweet one for sure. But that's all I've really been playing. I got to play a little bit of Pioneer. I played those 2 decks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of other decks in the format. Like I played against, like I said, Gruul Aggro a bunch of times. I played against that Jeskai Ascendancy deck. I played against Jund Sacrifice several times. So it's worth noting that definitely Cat Oven is still around. So you should be able to pay attention to Cat Oven when you're here.
So there's 2 Cat Oven decks. Jund Sac appears to be the more popular of the 2. And this is Cat Oven combo with Igra, Eater of All. In a nice Jund mid-range package. Like this is probably the best Fable of the Mirror Breaker deck at the moment. It's also got Scavenger's Talent. But there's a Golgari version as well, which is Cat Oven with the addition of Gilded Goose. You can still play Igra, but you have Vine Reap Mentor, which is when it's a Squirrel Druid for black and a green. When it enters or dies, create a food token. You don't get Fable, but you have Dredger's Insight as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do like mid-rangey black, green, X combo strategies, Jund is still pervasive, prevalent, and reasonable. But guess what? You only need 1 color to play mid-range, because mono black mid-range appears to be the most popular, if not most successful, of the mid-range strategies. And
I played against a lot of that deck.
Oh,
yes,
really?
Yes. And this is your Blade of the Oni, Gifted Aetherborn, Graveyard Trespasser, Shieldred the Apocalypse, Lilian of the Veil deck. And then you have, Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, and a handful of other cards to round it out. For me, the most interesting card here, which is one that I don't think I've ever actually played with or against, is Unholy Annex Ritual Chamber. You mentioned this when you were talking about demons, but it's still important here too.
I know you've played against it before, Stan, because I destroyed you with this in Sealed one time.
I don't remember ever playing Magic with you, Dave, or having you at my house, or opening any Duskborn packs.
Yeah.
It never happened.
I remember playing this against you in Sealed and being like, wow, that card seems pretty good. We were both like, this card is good.
Dave, I have so many booster packs, and you won't come over and crack them with me.
I mean, soon.
I've been holding on to foundation packs for you.
Oh my God, I love Foundations. Fun vanilla set.
Yeah.
We gotta get the friends together as soon as your friend gets back from con.
I don't have enough foundation packs for all of them. I just have enough foundations packs for us.
I see. Well, still. I just wanted to drop that you have a friend in con.
Cans.
Cans. Is it cans or cons?
It depends on the accent, the regional accent.
Yeah.
But back to my clunky transition. So we talked about mono black mid range. We talked about Jund and Golgari mid range.
Can I just say one thing about the mono black deck real quick? Devon, the combo is not here anymore.
Nope. That's been gone for a while, honestly.
Interesting.
People, when Duskborn first came out, people played it for, I want to maybe like a month or so, and then right after that is when they started playing Rakdos Demons, and that became more popular. And then for some reason, over the past, I don't know, like 3 weeks to a month, people are just playing mono black. Nobody's playing Rakdos anymore. It's weird.
Interesting. Yeah, the combo is the guy that kills you, hits you for half your life, and then you have the demon that does doubles stuff, so it kills you in one shot. That was in these decks for a lot when it first, right before Pioneer went underground.
Yep.
As I said, and now it's gone. But anyway, so what else is there, Stan?
The other deck that appears to be, there's 2 more decks that appear to be really consistently strong, and one of them is Selesnya Angels, which I believe is more of a aggro deck than a mid-range deck. You know, it's doing the Angels thing. You play some early elves, but really you're playing a bunch of flyers that gain you an insane amount of life, and you're also producing a ton of 4/4 Angel tokens with Resplendent Angel. Really annoying to play against. I guess bad against control strategies.
Yeah.
That's
Also
kind of it.
expensive.
Say.
You noted here it has 48 rares in it. Good
Yes.
God.
Yes, it's the third
They're all
most
terrible, too.
expensive deck.
Yeah, but here's what's so wild to me about Arena versus real life versus Moto. Did you see the cost of this deck on Moto?
10 cents.
19 tickets.
Yeah, worthless.
You can buy this whole deck, 19 tickets on Moto, 48 rares on Arena.
19 tickets. You can trophy a league and still have tickets left over.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as we're talking about the economy of things, the two more expensive decks than this, one is Blue-White Control, which isn't even the premier control deck of the format. That seems to me to be Mono-White Token Control, a deck I'd never even heard of before we started working on this. It is a Yorion deck. By the way, Yorion's still legal in Pioneer.
Oh, jeez. Yorion, no.
And I guess you could say it has like a token payoff sort of in Enduring Innocence. But the way it's producing a ton of material is with Elspeth Storm Slayer, which is the new Elspeth from Khans. That's you +1 to create a soldier token, and then it can 0 to put 1/1 counters on each creature you control.
Yes, it also makes double tokens. So it's also a tokens payoff itself.
You
It's
can
the whole
create
thing.
You can create some tokens with Beza, the Bounding Spring, if your opponent has more creatures than you do. You can cheat cards into the battlefield with United Battlefront.
Oh my gosh, someone's playing United Battlefront?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
McWinsauce. He's been playing a lot of that mono white deck.
Interesting.
Yeah, what's interesting about this deck, and also it's making tokens with Wedding Announcement and Castle Ardenville. What's also interesting to me about this deck is that it has a Ruined Halo here and there, a card that used to be like $40. Now it's nothing. But in addition to Enduring Innocence, it's playing Caretaker's Talent, and it has this effect of, it has several cards with the effect of whenever a token or something with, like 2 or less power enters the battlefield, you get to draw cards. So it has this grindy engine built into a control plan that's also just making a ton of bodies along the way. I don't know if this deck is actually any faster than, your other rudimentary blue-white control deck. Although it's making bodies, it's Yorion still, so it probably takes forever to do anything.
I put, just small side note, I put an Angels list under the in the document. Just wanted to highlight, and I'm not gonna name names. I'm not gonna we're not gonna say who played this deck, but there was an Angels deck that top 8 at a challenge that had 2 copies of United Battlefront.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Wow. I was like, this is bad collected company, and no, people are into it because it gets a non-creature,
Yeah,
non-land.
I think there's a good chance they just didn't read the card.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it was intentional.
Okay.
But-
well, yeah, because they don't have any non-creature.
There is no
permanents.
There's no hits in this deck. So I just thought,
Yikes.
Hold on. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put up to 2 non-creature, non-land permanents with men value 3 or less among them onto the battlefield.
the gear. I can see the gears turning.
Yeah. So, for example, in the McWinsauce deck we were talking about, it gets you things like Portable Hole, Carrot Cake, Perilous Snare, Authority of the Consuls. It gets you a bunch of other things. In the Angels deck we were talking about, it literally gets you nothing
No, there's no
unless
hits.
you bring in the Portable Holes
Well,
out of your sideboard.
That's funny. You can't take this card out post-board because post-board you're bringing in Takasha's Welcome and Rest in Peace and Damping Sphere and Portable Holes and Deafening Silence. So it gives you redundant copies of all of your sideboard cards, but in game 1 it's quite bad.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah,
Not great.
interesting. All right. Last couple of decks that are in here. And we're not going to talk about these a ton, but I do want to note people are playing Spirits. They're
Yeah.
playing Grease Fang still.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Spirit
classics.
players, there's dozens of us.
There are.
Dozens.
They're playing Ninja Rogues, Demir Rogues, which sounds like a cool typal deck as well.
Yeah, and that's on the cheaper end of the spectrum. It's funny. Spirit's one of the most expensive cards with 48 rares.
Ooh.
Demir Rogue's only 29 rares.
Grix's Creativity. I actually did play one that I forgot, but I did play against a Creativity deck as well. managed to win, but I had literally no idea what I was playing against the first game.
Right.
I just killed them, and they kept playing Fable the Mirror Breaker and things like that make tokens, and I was like, what am I looking at here? And then game 2, they creativity into a Valgavoth, and I was like, oh, we're doing this.
And what did Valgavoth do?
It killed me immediately in game 2, and then I was fast enough game 3.
Yeah, that one's tough to beat.
Did he eat your terror?
Eat my terror.
He is the terror eater.
No, it did not eat my terror because I didn't have 3 non-land permanents to sacrifice to it. I was playing a deck with a lot of spells.
So it ate your soul instead.
It did.
Yeah.
Skip the terror.
It made my head explode, as what happens in Arena when you die.
To put a bow on this, I would say that the format, relatively diverse. There's clearly the biggest chunk of the iceberg, which I think is occupied by mono red. You know, maybe you could say, is it Phoenix is among those mono black mid range. But then you have a lot of people on the fringes doing random weird stuff. And in some cases, doing this random weird stuff for really long periods of time. Junsack, Spirits, Creativity, Greasefang, like Hidden Strings. These are all decks that have been around for years within Pioneer. And you're sort of living that dream that you don't even get to experience in Modern anymore, where in a lot of cases, you can play the same deck for a crazy long time.
Well, it's like for better or for worse on Arena, because the thing that's interesting about Arena is if you want to play Magic, and you can do this on Moto too, but if you want to play Magic and just play against somebody for sort of non-existent stakes, but sort of fun stakes, you can go and just play the ladder. And you can just be like, I'm going to try to get to Mythic or whatever with my weird brew. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If I do this with this crazy brew that I have and I make it to Platinum, I'm going to screenshot it and send it to my couple of friends who know about Magic. Like, that's the weird thing about playing on Arena. And I guess, Devon, I did want to ask you, like, what do you play when you're playing Constructed on Arena? Because I was having a hard time picking what event to do. Like, I was definitely only playing best of 3. I don't want to play best of 1.
No, I mean, neither.
On Constructed. That sounds really bad for me, and it's a place for really degenerate decks to thrive. And then, so what are you doing? Are you playing ladder? Like, what are you trying out?
Just playing ladder.
You're just playing ladder.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're not going into the like short events that are like win some gems back or whatever. You're just buying a deck and then playing it on ladder and seeing how far you can go.
Yeah, when they have the special events on the weekends, like that Pioneer Showcase or whenever they do metagame challenges, I'll play all of those because those are like low entry and pretty high prizes. But other than that, I just play ladder.
The prizes are kind of bad for the leagues.
Oh yeah, they're not good. They're not good.
I wish they were slightly more generous somehow.
Yeah, I wish so too.
Just a little bit. Like, I think I said this a long time ago when we were playing first, like, we're going to cover Historic on Arena back in like 2020 even. I remember saying, you know, the opens are good, but these little events where you buy in for 750 gems and you have to get 4 wins before you get 2 losses, I think, to be able to get even anything close to your gems back is pretty rough.
Yeah, I wouldn't play those.
Yeah, but it's interesting because the limited queues are totally, in my opinion, the limited queues are totally different.
Yes.
Like, the limited queues are like, if you draft and you go 4-3, you get 1,000 gems out of 1,500 back. You get a few packs, you get the cards that you drafted and some gold. And that's enough to feel like you are making your dollars stretch on Arena. And if you get 5 wins, then you get your money back. But it feels a lot harder on Constructed. So I do think that when you go into just the ladder, are you just playing like total rogue deck sometimes where you're just like, wow, I'm in Diamond 4 and all of a sudden I'm paired up against, you know, somebody's weird combo deck?
No, I mean, I'm mostly just, it kind of depends. Like, you know, sometimes off stream, I'll do some testing on the ladder to get like a feel for like, you know, testing a little bit for Hartford. But, you know, when I'm streaming, I just like, you know, play whatever brew I'm playing, just fire it off in the ladder. You know, it's no different.
Yeah.
My last question. What are the best sources for Pioneer data when it seems like there's so little support for it in general? The challenge is still fire. So for that reason, I'm inclined to just recommend go to MTG Goldfish, look at challenge results. Maybe you can see what people are brewing in the leagues, because we don't have an equivalent of that for Arena, but MTGO, you can still see leagues.
They do have an equivalent of that for Arena, actually, where you can go and see 7-0 decks and things like
Untapped.
that. It's Does Untapped have that?
7-0 decks. What do you mean?
I think that there are Arena articles on Magic's website that are like, here's the decks that have trophied leagues.
Oh, well, no. So I think at the end of every season, they'll do like, here's a list of some random people who made platinum to mythic or whatever.
Okay.
But as far as like the daily metagame results, untapped.gg has a pretty good feature where you can just like go in, click on best of 3, click on Pioneer, and it'll show you like within the past 7 days, past 14 days, like these are the decks that they're playing. It'll show you all of their win rates too. So if you're, new to Arena and maybe want to get into the format, see what people are playing to figure out like what your deck choice would be based on that, that's a good resource.
Yeah. There's stuff out there that's gathering Arena content for sure. It's just, it's not as accessible as Moto data is.
Yeah.
Yeah. MTGDecks.net also has the win rate matrices, and they gather a lot of samples from potentially too many places.
A lot.
Potentially. Like random store tournaments in Italy get filtered into the overall win rate matrix. And so, I don't know, maybe the big sample size is good. Maybe you take it with a grain of salt, but you can still see the grid there and see that allegedly in the last 60 days, the best deck was Mono Black Demons. Allegedly.
I'd buy it.
But as far as playing Pioneer going forward goes, I'm up for continuing to try it because over the last couple of months, I have started to feel like I do enjoy playing on the interface of Arena pretty well.
It's
as
a good
far as digital
interface.
Magic
They got
goes.
another one. They hooked him.
They did kind of hook me. I mean, I mostly have channeled that into draft. Moto, I love, God love Moto, but like I have to like log into my PC that I never use, and then I have to like fire it up, and then I have to rent a deck, and it's just like the friction around playing on there is a lot more than just opening up Arena and being like, well, I like to burb, and I still have my burbs, and I can just go on the ladder and play.
Very convenient.
It is convenient. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It's convenient. I don't think the format is as fun for me as Modern yet, but I do think it's got its place, and at this point, it's got as many cards as Modern did not too far before the era that we started podcasting, I think. If you think about it that way, how far back it went, I think is catching up quickly with 2018, 2017 Modern as far as the number of years of sets that are in it. So, which is another interesting thing to think about.
When I checked, it was I think it was like 12,300.
Okay. Cards total.
Cards total in Pioneer, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I will say, I didn't have the highest expectations going into playing the Pioneer Showcase events. And I mean, I came out of those two challenges feeling like I thought it was dope. I had a really good time playing. I thought I was going to just, play against a whole bunch of Phoenix and Mono Red. And I think between 14 or 15 matches, I played against Phoenix once and Mono Red once. So it was a pretty good variety. The games were fun. Would definitely do it again.
I don't want to reinstall Arena, so.
Really? I was just going to ask you where your mind was at. Because we had this whole discussion. You've done a great job moderating and setting up notes.
Thank you.
But you haven't said much about where you're at.
It's more that I'm not motivated to play Arena right now because Arena feels like a video game compared to MTGO, which feels like a simulation of Magic online.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't have time in my video game budget for Arena when I could be playing games for What's That in Your Pocket? Which just put out another new episode this week, by the way.
Yeah, or practicing for Modern RCQs.
That's also true. Yeah. I would sooner play MTGO, but I really just want to play Magic and Paper right now anyway. That's the juice.
Come to Hartford.
Hey,
Devon, come to Indianapolis.
will I have a wicked good time?
Yes.
That was like me doing a Chicago accent, but trying to use Boston slang. Can you do a whole episode in a Boston accent?
No. I'm not even going to try.
You
The
couldn't
scowl
or
on
you
your
wouldn't.
face.
No, I don't have a Boston accent.
I know you don't, but maybe you could find one.
No, that's not the part of the state I grew up in, all right?
You said Hartford like you were from there.
No, yeah, Hartford. That's Connecticut, dude. That's not Boston.
They sound the same. And you know it. What, now you're going to tell me Rhode Island has its own accent too?
We won't go there.
Before we go anywhere, though, I want to hear about Affinity and Modern.
Okay.
Are you finally liking it?
Well,
You wanted to like it once upon a time. We couldn't crack Kappa Cannoneer.
Yeah.
A week or two ago, I was saying we figured out Kappa Cannoneer, and in fact, it's good and it's big. Hashtag big. Hashtag you should play it. Hashtag what's on the modern agenda these days.
I do like big. Big equals good. So I had this idea, this like revelation when I was looking through Affinity decks, and I had seen like the Jeskai Ascendancy stuff that was doing like Narset, Jeskai Waymaster. Sometimes they were playing Jeskai Ascendancy. Some were playing more Ascendancies. Those versions were playing Cutter, right? And then I was looking at Affinity decks that were playing like, you know, Kappa Cannoneer, Emery, Tameo, and then I found, but those decks weren't playing Cutter. And then I found a list of Affinity that wasn't playing Tameo or Emery, that was playing like Cut Mox Amber, Cut the Legends, playing more. They were just playing like 8 zeros, 4 Thought Monitor, 4 Kappa Cannoneer, and 4 Memory Guardian. So it was like more of a beatdown version. Memory Guardian is the 5 mana 3/4 flyer affinity for artifacts from Aether Drift. So I took that version and I was like, well, I really want to try Cutter and Affinity, but you know, nobody's doing that. They're playing Cutter in the more combo Ascendancy versions. Nobody was playing in traditional Affinity. So I'm just like, all right, let's just take this Affinity deck, cut the Guardians, play Cutters, change the lands. I'm playing 4 Glimmer Void, 4 Spire of Industry, which mana base was fine because you have those plus Opal plus Drums. You have 16 Rainbow, producers, so that's fine. So Theory was good. Ended up going 5-2 in the challenge. I lost to Boros and Titan, and my wins were against Ruby Storm, Boros, Affinity, Mirror, which is kind of weird, and Eldrazi. I think I got like 12th place. I had bad breakers. But TLDR, funny story, is, I added the Cutters to the deck thinking that they would make the deck better, and I boarded them out every single round.
Did you really?
So, yeah. Well, okay, so here's the thing, right? I didn't think that they were... I'm not going to say they're bad against Boros, but I don't think they're good against the top range of Boros's draws, where they're just going too wide. They're going like, one drop into a Johnny, into whatever, and it's like, sure, you can make an extra token every turn, but they're making 5 tokens a turn. So you can't really keep up with the tokens they're making. And it's also not very good against the sideboard cards. Like they have Wrath of the Skies and Meltdown, which it doesn't really help against those cards. So in a post-board situation, it kind of even gets worse in the post-board games, where you just want to shove all in on Kappa Cannoneer against Boros. That's the card they have the hardest time dealing with. And then against Ruby Storm and Amulet, I thought Cutter would be too slow, and I still believe that. I mean, if your plan is turn 2 Cutter plus 0 against Amulet, like you're just going to die next turn. And then in the Affinity Mirror, maybe it's more interesting. Against Eldrazi, you could argue that like having Cutter on the battlefield is good for when they Kozilek's return you, because it's easy for you to rebuild after that. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of just wish I had like a cheaper threat like Memory Guardian, honestly. So I don't know. Maybe there's some more experimenting to be done, but I don't know if the Kappa Cannoneer Thought Monitor stuff necessarily fits the Corey Steel Cutter plan that well, which is weird.
That's too bad. I thought we were setting up for a real breakthrough here, but hey, you took it to the lab and you found out That's not the best part of how this works.
Yeah. And see, the thing is, you would think that it would be good in this deck, right? You're an artifact deck that has Mox Opal and 16 0-mana cards. Like, sign me up. But it's just most of the time, like, the best draws in Affinity are turn 1, Saga, turn 2, Activate Saga, turn 3, you guessed it, Activate Saga. And in those draws, you just don't really have a way to fit Corey Steel Cutter in the mix. Then your other better draws are a bunch of zeros that you kind of need to play. Like, you need to dump your hand early so you can play Kappa Cannoneer on turn 2. And in those hands, you played all your stuff already. Your Cutter's not very good if your hand's empty on turn 2. So it's just like, in the top range of your draws, it just doesn't really fit. So the card is really only good if your draw fails, and maybe that's a reason to play a couple copies, because in the hands where it's good when you're mulliganing, because Affinity historically is pretty bad when you mulligan because you have less resources to work with. But if you like mulligan to 5 and have a Cutter and a 0, that is a way to kind of get back into the game on a mulligan. So there could be, like, maybe, like I said, a couple copies maybe in the sideboard.
Back to the lab. Figure it out.
Back to the lab. Kappa Cannoneer, though, that card's busted. Oh my!
You don't say.
Nobody can beat that card.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's crazy. You need to start playing like Edicts, Liliana's Edict or something.
Yeah, if you're playing Affinity, please put 4 of that card in your deck.
I just out of curiosity, like, what does that card lose and die to? Like,
cards that people don't play. Damnation.
Liliana of the Veil.
Yeah, like, do you need to play Shatterstorm effects? Like, because I was thinking, like, even if you're playing something like Path to Exile, which I'm not necessarily endorsing, but you are then spending 5 mana on a path when you can instead cast something like Shatterstorm and just, you're spending 4 mana, but then at least you're destroying all artifacts as well.
I got it. Rending Volley. Trigger on the stack. It's a 4/4. Before they can get the first counter, Rending Volley. There you go.
It works. Because it can't be countered?
Correct.
Yeah.
There you go.
But then it needs to, you're practically playing it as a
You have to hold
spell.
up a mana.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. It has to line up every time.
Yeah.
But and you have to play red. Who would do that?
I don't know. The person who only plays Boros?
Dave?
That wraps up this week's show. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you get the latest episodes as soon as they come out. And if you use Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review and a rating. If you'd like to submit a question to the podcast or reach out, you can tweet us at The Dive Down, all one word, or email thedivedown@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/thedivedown. Also check out our store at thedivedown.com/store. Head over to heavyplay.com to get some incredible deck and dice boxes and playmats featuring the EquipMag system. Use code TheDiveDown2025 for 10% off your first order. Also, shout out to Mana Traders for sponsoring the Dive Down. Sign up for Mana Traders using the code TheDiveDown, all one word, for 10% off your first 2 months of Running Magic Online cards. And save money on paper cards over at Nerd Rage Gaming if you'd like to dive 8 for 8% off your order. And as always, special thanks to the bands Nowhere and Space Blood for letting us use their music. Until next week, get out there and try some Pioneer on arenas. Get some wild cards.
Live your life.
Yeah.
Caw-caw.
You know the podcast is going well when Dave suddenly, urgently wraps it up.